Enneagram 7s are driven to be free, uncontrolled, and spontaneous, keeping themselves excited and occupied in order to distract themselves from suffering. 7s are optimistic, high energy, imaginative, and not afraid to plunge headlong into new experiences. They have a good sense of humor and a knack for making the best of a bad situation. However, their excessive focus on escaping emotional pain can lead to chronic stress and fatigue as they frantically try to outrun their sadness. Though 7s tend to be stereotyped as happy-go-lucky and optimistic, that doesn't mean they're positive and smiling all the time. In fact, when sadness catches up to them, 7s can spiral into hopelessness, suffocated by the fear that there is no light at the end of the tunnel. However, when it comes to lightening the burden of another, 7s aren't afraid to embrace those darker, messier emotions. In this way, 7s can be sensitive empaths who help bring their loved ones out of the darkness and into the light.
You know, sometimes I amaze even myself.
That doesn't sound too hard.
Today we are going to be digging into how to use the Enneagram 7 personality type when creating characters. Whether you're writing a novel, a short story, a screenplay, a video game, or any expression of story, the Enneagram is an ancient philosophy connecting human behavior with human beliefs, and it has been an absolute game changer for me as a writer. So if you want to make your characters more flawed, relatable, human, and real, keep watching. This is part 7 of a 9-part video series breaking down the Enneagram. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Abby, and I help writers make their stories matter and make their author dreams come true. And if that's something you're on a mission to do, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel. I would love to have you here in the community. Also, real quick before we get into the video, I wanted to let you know that my new book, Make Your Story Matter, is now available for pre-order. This is not your run-of-the-mill, boring writing guide, I promise. It is an interactive guide to unlocking your brain's natural storytelling instincts and writing a book readers love. It has been my life's work for the past 3 years, and I would be honored if you grabbed a copy, and you can do that with the link below this video. The overarching fatal flaw for Type 7 is I need to escape negative emotions. 7s are all about seeking out fun, stimulating experiences in order to avoid the darker parts of life. However, this avoidance makes it difficult for them to process those harder emotions or face harsh realities. They're basically allergic to boredom, which means routines and mundane responsibilities can feel agonizing for a 7 who needs that constant excitement and stimulation. When they feel stuck in a cycle of tedium, they become deeply frustrated and restless for change, which can sometimes make them seem scattered, irresponsible, or just plain lazy.
What's on the docket?
You have a 9:30 dinner.
Perfect, I'll be there at 11. This is us?
Deep down, it's that 7s don't like to feel trapped or controlled. They want freedom. It's what they crave at their core.
I'm not gonna let anyone put me in a cage.
I don't want to put you in a cage. I want to love you.
The same thing.
Now, it's important to note that every 7 expresses this need for freedom in a different way. Some 7s might physically escape their environment to find greener pastures, while other 7s care more about spiritual fulfillment and finding that ideal, significant other who makes their life complete. The greatest vice of a Type 7 is gluttony. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that 7s are gluttons for food, drink, or overindulgence. Gluttony for a 7 shows up in the compulsive desire for more stimulation in order to distract themselves from the negative emotions that they're trying to avoid. If they like something, they want more of it, and enough is never enough. They are the person who is planning their next vacation while they're still on vacation. A 7's gluttony for experience usually leads to a sense of dissatisfaction. But here's the thing, 7s don't even see this as a vice or an obstacle, just the opposite. They see pleasure seeking as the solution to their problems. They think if they keep chasing stimulation, they'll eventually find something that gives them that sense of fulfillment. But here's the thing, this passion for gluttony drives the 7 to crave more and more. More pleasure, more thrills, more of whatever feels good in the moment. A 7's hunger for experience comes from wanting to avoid suffering, but ironically, gluttony actually is their source of suffering. Their nonstop pursuit of pleasure is really just a way of running from the fear of emotional pain. This compulsion compulsion to always want more ultimately leaves the 7 feeling hollow. Chasing pleasure doesn't lead to real contentment because it's all just a coping mechanism to avoid the pain that they're trying not to feel. In short, the 7's driving internal conflict is their desire to be free and happy, enjoying new, exciting adventures in order to keep themselves stimulated and outrun the fear of being trapped in emotional pain. Okay, now let's look at some strengths and weaknesses of the Type 7. First and foremost, optimism and positive reframing. 7s are naturally optimistic and they usually tend to look on the bright side. They like to see the best in people and situations, and they often use positive reframing as a coping mechanism when life gets too heavy. But despite the stereotype, this doesn't mean that 7s are constantly upbeat and happy and smiling all the time. It just means that whenever possible, they seek out the silver lining, the light at the end of the tunnel, the proof that all is not lost.
When life gets you down, you know what you gotta do?
I don't want to know what you gotta do.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming.
However, when this positive reframing is taken too far, some 7s can slip into a state of delusion, refusing to accept a negative reality as their reality. Sometimes they would rather put on those rose-tinted glasses and be like, everything's gonna be okay, than deal with a uncomfortable confrontation head on.
I know. Let's go dancing. Papa loves parties, don't you?
Escapism. 7s are wired to chase pleasure and dodge pain at all costs. They tend to overlook or downplay anything negative, focusing instead on what makes them feel good. They hate feeling controlled or caged in by anyone, especially authority figures. 7s even resist routines and the schedules that make them feel constrained or trapped. Boring tasks like paperwork or housework can feel like a huge burden to them.
Leave the birds alone.
I hate these birds and their...
I thought this was paradise.
That was 2 days ago. Now, I'm bored.
Whenever possible, they will reframe mundane work as fun and turn even the most boring tasks into a game or an adventure. Next strength is spontaneity. 7s are incredibly charming because they are spontaneous, adventurous, and ready to ditch their plans the second something more exciting comes along. This makes them incredibly creative because they're not afraid to take risks when it comes to art or travel or whatever wild adventure calls to them. They are free-spirited and playful, which is part of what makes them so magnetic and fun to be around. People feel drawn to 7s because they radiate this energy of, let's do something fun right now, which can be very charming until it's not.
You need a brain break. You should hang out with me today.
Yeah, that would do it.
Dude, I'm serious. Let's have some fun. Come on.
And finally, lack of focus or discipline. Because 7s avoid limits and constraints, they also struggle with discipline. As a result, 7s often find it hard to stick with something mundane or tedious from start to finish. They don't like postponing pleasure, so if they find a way to rationalize putting off this boring work task to instead do something fun and exciting right now, they're gonna do that. They're gonna choose that option. However, this often turns into like this cycle of self-sabotage where they're constantly uprooting themselves before they can see anything through to the end. It's not that 7s can't focus, it's that they need to be intellectually stimulated and passionate about what they're working on in order to give it the focus and discipline it requires. And since their excitement is always in flux, it means they often abandon high commitment projects and never finish what they start.
Look at yourself. You went to law school. You never took the bar. You went to business school. I can't get you anywhere near the office. You studied languages you don't speak, instruments you don't play. You have a series of girlfriends you never see more than twice. Do you not see a pattern here?
Who are you to lecture me about closeness?
You're a grown man, David. Finish something.
Because our personality is so shaped by our early life experiences, it's important to look for clues in the past to see how we became who we are today. So here are some common childhood conflicts that can shape a person into a Type 7. Early loss of a parent, leading to distraction from grief through pleasure seeking. Chaotic or unstable home where fun and adventure became an escape from stress. Overly strict or controlling parents, sparking rebellion against authority and rules. being indulged by their parents in response to bad behavior, playing the family entertainer or peacemaker to cope with dysfunction, depressed or emotionally unavailable parents, leading to overcompensating with optimism and looking on the bright side, or an isolated upbringing that sparked craving for excitement and new experiences. Of course, other childhood conflicts could shape a person into a type 7, so this is not an exhaustive list. This is just a good place to start if you're fleshing out your character's backstory and you want to figure out why they adopted these beliefs and this conflict. Now that we have a good understanding of the Enneagram Type 7, let's break it down even more into the 3 subtypes. So in Enneagram philosophy, each of the 9 types has 3 subtypes based on primary instincts: self-preservation, social belonging, and sexual or one-to-one bonding. Of course, everyone has all 3 of these instincts, but depending on which one is dominant, your personality will express itself very differently. Before I knew about the subtypes, I had only ever heard the Enneagram described in terms of healthy, average, and unhealthy, which I think is just kind of a limiting view of personality because nobody is 100% healthy or 100% unhealthy, right? We all have a mixture of good and bad, positive traits, negative traits, and that mixture is what makes your characters feel human. Your character's greatest strengths are their greatest weaknesses, and they should always be on a journey of change, whether that is like ascending to a higher place with a positive character arc, or they're on a negative character arc and their shadow self is consuming them. That's why I decided to take these 3 subtypes and break them down a different way, looking at the bright side and the shadow side. So we're gonna look at each subtype and explore the virtues and vices, the ways that they could grow and become a better person, or the ways that their shadow self could slowly start to destroy them. First up, self-preservation 7s. The adventurer, or the escapist. Self-preservation 7s are masters of getting what they want and cultivating a tight-knit network of people who can help them get what they want. They're opportunistic, clever, and effortlessly charming, with a bit of a hedonistic streak.
I tend to imagine that I'm someone they're really besotted with, and then I just, dive in.
They have a natural talent for spotting opportunities and figuring out how to make things work in their favor. Their core need is to feel unrestrained and totally carefree, which makes them both charismatic and irresponsible.
Should probably be responsible, go to sleep.
Yeah, we can be responsible. We can do that. Or
on the surface, adventurers are flirty, clever, playful, and magnetic. But deep down, they often feel empty inside. That's why they're constantly running to the next stimulating activity to help them escape the dissatisfaction of reality. These 7s can sometimes be disconnected from their deeper emotions, using humor and lightheartedness as a shield. And because they're so lively and entertaining, people rarely see past the act, which means they're not taken seriously, even when they need to be.
Trust me, you're gonna be in a puddle of blood on the ground in 5, 4, 3, come on! 2, put down your weapons, tie yourselves to those chairs. In 5, 4, bang! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A good character example of the Adventurer 7 is Tony Stark from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At the beginning of his story, Tony embodies the classic 7 appetite for stimulation. Brilliant, fast-talking, and constantly chasing the next thrill through wealth and excess.
You're throwing one of these in with every purchase of 500 million or more. It's a piece.
As a genius weapons manufacturer, he lives a life of limitless freedom, constantly running from responsibility with charm, humor, and a splash of hedonism. But everything changes when he is captured by terrorists and forced to confront the real-world impact of his company. This moment shatters his illusion of control and awakens a deeper purpose. Instead of continuing to waste his life with self-indulgence, Tony redirects his energy toward innovation that protects rather than destroys, building the Iron Man suit as both a literal and symbolic transformation.
I shouldn't be alive. Unless it was for a reason. I just finally know what I have to do. And I know in my heart that it's right.
He doesn't lose his wit or love of excitement, but his arc becomes about using those traits in service of something greater than himself. Over time, Tony transforms from a man who avoids pain through pleasure into one who willingly faces pain and responsibility head on, even when it costs him everything. His journey culminates in the ultimate act of self-sacrifice, proving that the Adventurer 7, at their best, doesn't just hunger for freedom, they long for true purpose and positive impact on others. When the shadow takes over, however, self-preservation 7s go from being the adventurer to the escapist. These 7s are the most self-indulgent of all the subtypes. Their gluttony expresses itself as the insatiable thirst for more pleasure, more fun, more stimulation, more adrenaline. But these aren't just the ways for the 7 to have fun, they're escape routes from anything painful or heavy. Escapist 7s often believe that rules and limitations don't apply to them, and they can do what they please or even exploit others in pursuit of stimulating experiences. Because of this, their relationships often have a bit of a transactional quality, an unspoken air of, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
I saved your life, you saved mine, we're square.
Escapist 7s will consume as much pleasure as they can get their hands on and feel zero guilt about it. They often confuse their wants and needs and hate being told what they can and cannot do.
I take orders from just one person, me.
So one day still alive.
At their worst, these 7s become toxic, self-absorbed narcissists whose only goal in life is to satisfy their craving for ultimate freedom. A good character example of this shadow side taking over is Kenneth Noy from the British heist drama The Gold. Kenneth is a cheeky, risk-taking opportunist who leads a double life as a seemingly legitimate businessman and a professional criminal fence. When a share of heisted gold lands in his orbit, Kenneth steps in and offers to help melt it down and quietly move it back into circulation.
That's 3 tons of pure gold. If you could handle a job like this, then I'd have heard of you. You only hear about the people who get caught.
But what starts as a covert operation turns into something much bigger once he sees how much money and opportunity is really on the table. Instead of taking the win and walking away, he gets gluttonous, going all in. He uses his contacts, brokers deals, and exploits anyone he can to keep scaling the operation. His inner motivation isn't just to get rich or win the approval of others. Rather, he's intoxicated by the idea of unstoppable power and limitless freedom the gold can provide. His character is a darker expression of the very 7-ish idea that enough is never enough.
I'm ready. I can be a king.
As the criminal operation grows, Kenneth gets bolder, richer, and more convinced he's untouchable. But just when he starts to think he can outsmart the system forever, his mistakes catch up to him. The freedom he was chasing becomes the thing that cages him, until eventually he's caught, found guilty for his involvement in the heist, and sentenced to 14 years in prison.
No one's ever done anything like that before, have they? 1.5 ton of gold just vanished into thin air. Yeah, I'll be remembered for that.
Next up, social 7s. The Cheerleader, or the Sideliner. Unlike the self-preservation 7s, who satisfy their gluttony by constantly escaping through stimulation and excitement, social 7s satisfy their gluttony by exercising a kind of anti-gluttony in the service of others. This is the counter-type of the 3 subtypes, in that this 7 doesn't always look like a 7 from the outside. Rather than seeking pleasure for themselves, Cheerleader 7s appear very pure or idealistic, consciously pushing against gluttony by leaning into altruism. They often become helpers who want to alleviate pain, and they may give more to others and take less for themselves. This archetype usually shows up in fiction as the supportive best friend character who's always there to cheer up the protagonist. Think classic Disney sidekicks like Olaf, Mushu, or Dory. On the surface, they are joyful, enthusiastic, conflict avoidant, and visionary, imagining a better, more peaceful world. Because of their supportive, generous energy, they can often look like type 2s. But unlike 2s, they're still primarily self-referencing. as in they're always aware of what they want and need, even when they choose to sacrifice it.
Well, you see, the sky was so blue today and everything was so green and fragrant, I just had to be a part of it.
A good character example of the Cheerleader 7 is Maria from The Sound of Music. Unlike self-preservation 7s who chase freedom through constant stimulation and adventure, Maria channels her restless, joyful energy into uplifting and caring for others. At the beginning of the story, Maria struggles to conform to the rigid expectations of convent life. Though she genuinely longs to serve God and do what is good, her free-spirited nature keeps pulling her toward the beauty and spontaneity of life beyond the abbey walls. She would much rather be singing in the mountains, dancing in the fields, and embracing the wonder of the world than trapped inside a quiet, orderly convent. But when she becomes governess to the Von Trapp children, Maria discovers true fulfillment not just through service, but through emotional connection with others.
When anything bothers me and I'm feeling unhappy, I just try and think of nice things.
What kind of things?
Green meadows, skies full of stars, raindrops on roses, and whiskers on kittens.
Her optimism, playfulness, and vivid imagination slowly breathe life back into a grieving household, helping the children reconnect with joy and helping Captain Von Trapp rediscover love and music again.
Oh, please, Captain, love them all.
I don't care to hear anything further from you about my children.
I am not finished yet,
Oh,
Captain.
yes, you are, Captain. Fräulein.
Maria ultimately learns that she doesn't have to choose between caring for others and embracing her own desires. By the end of the story, she steps fully into her own life, choosing love, family, courage, and freedom without abandoning her generous heart. When their shadow side takes over, however, social 7s go from being the cheerleader to the sideliner. They become too fixated with being good and helpful, and use this altruism almost as a way to escape the responsibility of taking charge of their own life. This service can become a way of minimizing their own guilt about pleasure, desire, or self-interest, an attempt to purify themselves, cover up shortcomings, and earn recognition, admiration, or love. They can become too pure, preoccupied with diet, health, or spirituality, distrust their own motives, and judge deeper impulses as bad. They're extremely sensitive to selfishness, which often leads them to be at war with themselves over their desire to be dutiful and their longing for freedom and adventure. The tragedy of this 7 is not that they become hedonistic and self-indulgent, but that they stand on the sidelines of their own life. A good example of this shadow side taking over is Cassandra Austen from the BBC series Miss Austen.
Are you perhaps some relation to Miss Jane Austen?
She was my sister.
I know this series is somewhat obscure, but Cassandra is honestly the clearest expression I could find of what this subtype looks like in shadow. Unlike other 7s who chase excitement and freedom, Cassandra channels her energy into supporting and preserving the lives of others, especially her beloved sister, Jane.
You are abandoning me to our parents, you! My own sister, what is to become of me? I'm hardly going far.
After suffering the devastating loss of her first love and fiancé, Cassandra later finds the possibility of love again with another man, but denies herself that future, convincing herself that her true duty is to remain at Jane's side as caretaker, companion, and protector.
You are the kindest of men, but the truth is my sister would not survive without my constant care. My duty is here with her.
The series centers around Cassandra revisiting Jane's old letters after her death, attempting to safeguard her sister's legacy while also confronting the emotional truths she spent years burying. In true Sideliner 7 fashion, Cassandra pours herself into service, emotional caretaking, and maintaining harmony, all while slowly abandoning her own desires, grief, and identity. On the surface, she has all the warmth and optimism of a 7, but underneath that exterior of positivity lies a subtle fear of fully stepping into her own life. A fear that claiming happiness for herself might be selfish, disruptive, or hurtful to others.
I cannot marry anyone.
Why?
Because I promised Tom. I cannot go back on my word, Jane.
Cassandra's tragedy is not some big, dramatic destruction, but quiet self-denial, becoming so absorbed in preserving someone else's story that she never fully allows herself to live her own. And last but not least, sexual sevens, the visionary, or the delusionist. While the self-preservation 7 satisfies their gluttony through self-indulgence, the social 7 denies their gluttony through service to others, the sexual 7 copes with their gluttony by seeking deeper fulfillment in life. On their bright side, sexual 7s are visionary dreamers who idealize life and relationships, craving the essence of love and an ultimate connection. Their gluttony shows up as a hunger for meaning, beauty, and possibility, rather than for purely material pleasures. They're lighthearted, imaginative, and deeply creative. But unlike the other 7 subtypes, they don't use positive reframing to find the silver lining in every situation. Rather, they're quick to identify flaws in the people around them, often voicing their very strong opinions as a way of coping with their frustrations. While other 7s see the world through rose-tinted glasses, these 7s see the world in all its dissatisfying brokenness, and they want to run away from all of it. They can fall in love intensely, trust easily, and are drawn to extraordinary or metaphysical experiences. Anything that lifts them above the mundane and keeps life feeling expansive and alive. Visionary 7s often mistype as 4s because of their depth, complexity, and moody artist tendencies. But unlike type 4s, who almost enjoy lingering in melancholy, visionary 7s feel deeply uncomfortable sitting in negative emotions and actively try to fly away to a better place, a place where the pain and disappointment of reality can't touch them. A classic example of the visionary 7 is Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. Just in case I haven't talked about Pride and Prejudice enough on this channel, I'm going to talk about it some more. Elizabeth is free-spirited, witty, opinionated, and unwilling to settle for a life that feels dull, conventional, or passionless.
I am not the sort of female to torment a respectable man. Please understand me, I cannot accept you.
While other women around her are willing to marry for practicality or status, Elizabeth craves something more meaningful. True love to her must have fireworks, and she'd rather be alone and penniless than settle for a mediocre relationship.
Only the deepest love will persuade me into matrimony, which is why I will end up an old maid.
She's quick to form strong opinions about people and can become very critical when reality fails to live up to her ideals, something we see clearly in her sharp judgments of Darcy and her easy trust in the charming but deceitful Wickham. However, as the story unfolds, Elizabeth is forced to confront the flaws in her own perception. Darcy's disastrous first proposal and the letter that follows it become a turning point for Elizabeth, revealing how her prejudice and assumptions have distorted her understanding of others.
Mr. Darcy was at your wedding.
He was the one that discovered us. He paid for the wedding, Wickham's commission, everything.
By the end of the story, she learns that true love is not about chasing a fantasy of perfection, but about seeing another person for who they are at their core.
After what you have done for Lydia, and I suspect for Jane also, it is I who should be making amends.
You must know. Surely you must know it was all for you.
She doesn't accept Darcy when he's still being rude and prideful, but when she sees him do real inner work to improve himself and help out her family in a time of crisis, she realizes that he's the only man she could ever love. When the shadow takes over, however, sexual 7s go from being the visionary to the delusionist. When they can no longer use idealization as an escape from pain, anxiety, or conflict, they become a perfect storm of self-sabotage. These 7s already tend to hold on to incredibly high ideals, which means they struggle especially hard when faced with a less than perfect reality. Their romantic optimism can transform into delusion or obsession, making them overly trusting, gullible, or even willfully ignorant to actual dangers. They often become fixated on the object of their desire, whether that be a person, a place, or a thing, and won't relent until they get what they want, which can be especially tormenting when this desire is for another person who doesn't want them back. Restless, anxious energy scatters their focus more and more until everyday routines become unbearable, pushing them to chase the next uplifting vision rather than commit to the slow, grounded work of real life and real relationships. At their worst, they can become impulsive and temperamental, convincing themselves that true fulfillment is just beyond the horizon. They may even physically run away from responsibilities or resort to numbing addictions as a means of escaping the dissatisfaction of ordinary existence.
Big mountains, rivers, sky.
What are you doing when we're there? Now you're in the wild. What are we doing?
You're just living, man. You're just there in that moment, in that special place and time.
Yeah.
A tragic example of this shadow side taking over is Chris McCandless from Into the Wild. Chris is a deeply idealistic and visionary young man who becomes disillusioned with the materialism, hypocrisy, and emotional emptiness he sees in modern society.
You know, society! You know what I don't understand? I don't understand why every person is so bad to each other so often. It doesn't make sense to me. Judgment, control, all that, the whole spectrum.
Longing for a more authentic and transcendent life, he gets rid of all his possessions, gives away his savings, cuts ties with his family, and sets out across America in pursuit of true freedom. Like many visionary sevens, Chris romanticizes the deeper things in life, like nature, solitude, and adventure, while rejecting the ordinary life society has to offer.
I think careers are a 20th century invention, and I don't want one. But you're wrong if you think that the joy of life comes principally from human relationships. God's placed it all around us. It's in everything, in anything we can experience.
His optimism gradually transforms into dangerous denial as he becomes increasingly convinced that he can outrun limitations, human dependence, and even the harsh realities of the wilderness itself. Though he forms genuine connections with the people he meets along his journey, he continually ignores human relationships in pursuit of an even greater vision just beyond the horizon. At his worst, Chris becomes trapped in the Delusionist Seven's endless search for transcendence, always chasing a bigger, more meaningful life in attempts to escape the frustrations of the ordinary world. His tragic death alone in the Alaskan wilderness becomes the ultimate consequence of this self-destructive idealism, as he realizes, too late, the heartbreaking truth that happiness is only real when shared. So if you're writing an Enneagram 7 character and you want to make them feel more layered and realistic and believable, here are some good brainstorming prompts to get you started. Ask yourself, what childhood conflicts did my character experience that made them mistakenly believe they had to outrun emotional pain? What does the idea of freedom mean to them? Was there a moment in their past when they suffered control, negativity, or neglect? How has their optimism helped them to build up emotional walls and protect them from pain? How do their weaknesses, escapism, lack of focus, restlessness, gluttony, trip them up and keep them from achieving true happiness? What is their fatal flaw or false belief, and why is it personal to them? What ultimate truth or aha moment are they going to have in order to transform as a character? I've also created a companion guide to writing the Enneagram 7, which includes all of the key takeaways from today's video, plus the character examples and the subtype breakdowns. So if you want to grab that, you can grab the PDF below with the link in the description. Remember, this is an ongoing series that I'm doing here on my channel, so we still have 2 more Enneagram types to cover, and you don't want to miss those, so make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Smash that like button while you're down there, and also leave a comment and tell me, are you an Enneagram 7, or are you writing an Enneagram 7? Oftentimes, I see a lot of writers come to these videos for character insights and they end up discovering what their Enneagram type is. So comment below, join the discussion, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, happy writing, and as always, rock on. Shh.